Monocular depth cues. Linear perspective. Parallel lines that appear to converge with distance. The more they converge, the greater their perceived distance. So as you can see in this next picture, there's a building in the middle and two buildings to the side. The converging lines are shown in the yellow, and the green is the horizontal line. The two yellow parallel lines converge with distance, and the door is so small because it emphasizes the perceived distance. Texture gradient. Our proximity to an object. The closer one is to something, the more texture and detail one can see. So with these leaves, the leaf in the green is closer to us, therefore we can see more texture, like the cracks in the leaf, the water on the leaf, and the ridges on the leaf, rather than the one in the red, which is further away, so we can't really see that much detail than we could see on the green one. Interposition. If one object partially blocks our view of another, we perceive it as closer. So there is a clover and a spades. They're both kings. So the one that is a clover is partially blocking the spades. So therefore we think that the clover is closer to us because it blocks the spades, which is behind it. Relative size. If we assume two objects are similar in size, most people perceive the one that casts the smaller retinal image as farther away. So there are two bug sprays. The one in the back is farther away, and the one in front is closer to us. And the one in front seems much larger than the one in back because it's closer to us, but yet they're both the same size. Relative height. We perceive objects lower in our field of vision farther away, and objects higher in height nearer. So going back to the bug spray, the one in the back has a lower height than the one in the front, which has a taller height, or just taller. And we think that because since the one that is closer to us, it must be taller than the one that's in the back, which is shorter. And it's not like that. They're both the same height, but our eyes just perceive it that way. And relative brightness. Relative brightness is nearby objects reflect more light to our eyes than the objects that are farther away. Relative brightness. So in this picture, you could see there are trees. There's a tree with bark that is lighter, and that's because it's closer to us than the tree barks that are farther away. So the ones that are closer have more light reflecting on it than the ones in the back. Gestalt laws. Figure ground. A tendency to see parts of a visual field as solid, well-defined objects standing out against a less distinct background. So in this picture, we see girls running down, like they look like stairs, but if you look more distinctly into the picture, we see arrows pointing to the right and arrows pointing to the left, but the bigger picture are the girls running down. Proximity. We group nearby figures together. So in this picture, there are green shapes, and we group the shapes into vertical columns because the shapes that are under and above are closer than the shapes that are to the right or the left. So therefore, we group them because they're closer to one another. Similarity. We group similar figures together. So we see the pink shape and blue shape as horizontal rows of similar shapes, not as vertical columns of dissimilar shapes. Continuity. We perceive smooth, continuous patterns rather than discontinuous ones. The red dots to the left aren't actually flowing with the gray dots to the right, and we just think that it flows like that because we want a continuous line or pattern, but they really don't flow together. Closure. We fill in gaps to create a complete whole object, but there's actually only partially complete object. So there's a lot of gaps in this image, but we perceive it as a giraffe. And if the gaps were completed, it would be a giraffe. But even though there are gaps, we still see the giraffe. Common fate. Aspects of perceptual field that move or function in a similar manner will be perceived as a unit. So these yellow dots, some move down across and some move up across, but since they move in a similar pattern, we perceive it as one unit, like we perceive it as the same thing. Connectedness. We tend to perceive uniform or attached items as a single unit. So looking at B, we see 2 pairs of single units when there are really 4 circles instead of just 2 single units. But we see 2 because there's lines connecting it, but there's really 4 circles that are present. Other. Ambiguous figures. Images that are capable of more than one interpretation. There is no right way to see an ambiguous figure. In this picture, we see a depressed and sad looking man, while if you turn this picture around, you see a mischievous boy. So you can look at it as the mischievous boy or the depressed man. There's no right or wrong way. Impossible figures. A picture of an object that at first sight looks 3-dimensional but cannot be a 2-dimensional projection of a real 3-dimensional object. So basically this is saying that the stairs look 3-dimensional, but it cannot be 2-dimensional because there are stairs entering into stairs, and that's impossible. So that's why it's an impossible figure. Ponzo's illusion. The converging parallel lines tell the brain that the image higher in the visual field is further away, therefore the brain perceives the image to be larger, although the 2 images hitting the retina are the same size. So in this picture there are 3 girls, but the converging parallel lines of the ceiling tell us that the girl all the way to the right is larger because she's further away than the girl all the way to the left. But actually all 3 girls are the same size.